My job as a trader is not to trade here and 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 here. And every day I'm just a little trader that's trying to find his little pattern. My job is to establish the best possible markets for delivery. Make your rules in trading so unfair that someone that's watching this is like, but it's so unfair. Every time he's wrong, he's not losing any money. What the fuck is that all about? All right, hey, how's it going? And welcome back to mentfx. Now, over the last few videos, we did a step-by-step play, or actually maybe if this is part of the clip, a step-by-step play of some of the stuff that was available in the screener. We randomly picked it based on a random number generator. We clicked on it, we went through the actual action, comparing it to the overall NASDAQ, and basically looking at how we could use the overall cycle of momentum, as well as the cycle of entry, to get ourselves positioned behind moves, right? And you guys saw it kind of get randomized. Now, what I want to do for this, and currently we look like this. Right, so this has been the current findings over the 3 assets that we've traded. Now, what I want to now do is I want to go to the assets that I actually traded, one of them being SOUN. And again, right, notice something important. Here's SOUN. I already know before I do this test that this thing made a beautiful move, right, multiple times. It's made beautiful moves. Most importantly, it would have come to my list probably around this point here in November, the 12th of November, right? I am very, very fair with myself when I make these videos, right? When I started with the first video and all you saw was 3 losses and 2 break-evens, that's because I want to show you what it's like to be fair with yourself in your testing and then in your trading. Not being fair with yourself has no benefit whatsoever. Me not being fair with you guys has no benefit to you or myself, right? The only thing that me lying about the trades that I'd be taking are only going to maybe, you know, get the attention of someone who doesn't necessarily want to trade, but wants to appear to be a trader and thinks that, oh my God, only winning and only good trades is what it looks like, right? So when I do these tests for you and I walk you through my thought process of the momentum cycle, the entry cycle, what's going on in the move and how I would follow it, compare it, how I would look at the strength, I'm doing that because I'm showing you directly how I would approach the market on that given day and how the screener or other tools are finding me those markets. So SOUN is a market I've personally traded. This is a market that I've personally traded a few times, and this is a market that's been very, very strong. And I want to show you a little bit about the difference when I don't randomize the market I'm looking at, but instead I choose markets based on the fact that they're showing a lot of strength and they're coming directly from the mentfx screener, and again, do a full play-by-play of what that'll look like for the equity over that same amount of time. So again, these were all, you know, based on looking around that time of when it would show up, most recently over the last few months, and I'm going to do the same thing now for SOUN, which is a delivering market, using the exact same stuff here, being very fair with the move. So again, all I'm going to do is I'm going to start by going back here, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to hide everything, so it doesn't show us everything right now, but I'm going to, you know, I want to leave it on here because, well, I actually end up using, let's go like this. I actually end up using that analysis because it's part of my actual trading. So it's very important that I leave my analysis on there for later. But now we can start right here. So again, it's very likely that SOUN would have shown up on my screener probably around maybe like these points here, right? So what happens is at this point here, this is a market that would have started making a bigger move. It's making a larger move up. It's in bullish range already, which is a good thing. That's what I want to look for in my initial things. It's making a move up, which is what the screener would likely pick up on, right? So a percent change on the day or the weekly or the monthly, these would start to go very green. It would likely have the sentiment institutional start shifting somewhat green. So you see SOUN here is 67. At the time of this happening, the sentiment reading would probably be around 55, maybe 60 or a little bit higher. Maybe it would go to 60 after price gets a little bit higher, but that's perfectly fine. The EMA 20 close, which basically simply means that prices above a 20 EMA on the daily or has closed above would have already been met. So this would have been green as well. The EMA 20 trend, which is just an upwards moving 20, would have of course been met, and overall bullishness is met. So this is where a SOUN would have shown up on my actual list. And as a result, this is likely where I would start. Now, for my EVC, as you've already seen multiple times now, where I use a 65 minutes enter, a daily for validation, a weekly for context, I would start on the weekly to decide where are we in this overall move. Well, the weekly is actually in a very, very powerful move. So again, what I'm doing when I'm looking at this is I'm instantly looking for where am I in this momentum cycle since I'm on the context time frame of this move, right? The only time I care about this or the entry time frame is when I'm on the entry time frame. Otherwise, all I'm doing is using the momentum cycle, so this right here, or what it tends to do the momentum cycle that looks like this, right? But overall, this is all I actually use in my trading, and my entire mentorship, the entire team, is for giving you the information that makes you understand this at a much higher level, and then to give you the actual tools, like the screener, as you've seen a few times, to allow you to basically make your own profitability more efficient, okay? So let's just jump right into it. So the first thing I'm interested in is how are the stage 1s and 2 moving, and where are we in a cycle on the weekly? Have we started some kind of accumulation cycle or not, right? The first thing I see, I don't really look to here. I kind of look, this part is the first part that kind of grabs my attention, because what I see is a move out of a stage 1. So all I have to do is draw kind of a high through here, and I'm assuming this is your initial accumulation MB and move out of this. Then from there, you had the buildup of a momentum MB, right? So price began to move higher with the higher rising averages. There's a lot of material on this in the private mentorship, but price moves higher with the rising averages, the 5, 10, and 20, and begins to move alongside the averages. This is where we spent a lot of time discussing the benefits of averages. You guys can pause and read that if you want, and why we use them the way we do. But this is what started that move. And here I likely would have begun to look for daily, so validation time frame moves, but you can see this failed directly down and started to chop around this area. So that's perfectly fine. And it began to move into a stage 1. Now I suppose that this right here would have been an area that I would have also use as an accumulation MB. I would have considered entries in or around these areas when this began to show bullishness, right? So you can see at this time, when price began to show bullishness, it's very likely that I may have looked inside of these areas here for an entry. But what you'll also see is price just failed right down and continued down, which is important because even though my analysis was being done, and even though I was looking for things to happen, it doesn't mean that I took trades. And just because the analysis was wrong doesn't mean that trades were taken. That's very, very vital, because many traders think that because they drew something, it means there has to be a beneficial outcome. That is not the case. I draw things on my charts, I analyze my charts, I have ideas behind the charts that I look at. Now, none of that matters unless every single rule aligns for an actual execution to take place. And I have multiple steps for an execution to actually take place, which means that when the analysis fails, or when the analysis doesn't hold up, or when the things that I draw don't happen, just like this example right here where I draw something, I expect this accumulation MB just as per the cycle to lead into bullishness. Instead of that happening, which is the expectation, and price fails back down, it does not mean that I've taken losses. It does not mean that I've taken trades. It doesn't even mean that I've been wrong. It doesn't even mean that I've blown an account or lost money in my account or averaged down and taken bad trades. Many other mentorships and mentors will teach you in a way that's going to make you feel that way, where the fact that this is failing is a bad thing. You need to study it. You need to understand what you're doing wrong. You need to fix something. That is not the case at all. I simply chalk it up and say, okay, right? There has not been alignment across my EVC. There's nothing to do. The stage 1 continues to get built in or around the 10 and 20. And all of a sudden, at that same point that I said it would probably show up on the screener. So let me go one more candle forward. So right there, and let's go one back. Right there, we have now had the weekly move into a potentially bullish model. So what happened is, as price closed basically above this high, or kind of through these highs here, this is the first starting point of a move out of a stage 1 into an accumulation MB. Now there's a ton of information behind stage 1s and stage 2s within the material here, but the simple thought process, and I've shown this in some of my videos, is that prices move through stage 1s and 2s, and this is the primary thing that I'm using to determine where my accumulation MB is within the momentum cycle of a move. That's that initial accumulation MB, which starts to show us our sign of true momentum, which could put us into a model to start trading bullish opportunities on this thing as it moves higher. So this is where the accumulation MB is, which means it's very likely the validation has potentially moved into a bullish cycle. And when this happens, I am most interested in, let's make this white for the weekly. This one was also white for the weekly. Here's your kind of zoom out. And again, you guys can actually go back and study this action here, because inside of this action had been some beautiful setups. I actually traded some of these way back whenever this was, I think in February 2024. I was watching a lot of these, trading them on lowers, but beautiful entries in here, in here, in here, and then it just failed down. It distributed and then it broke down. But this is exactly what I look for as a trader. My job as a trader is not to trade here and 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 here. And every day I'm just a little trader that's trying to find his little pattern. My job is to establish the best possible markets for delivery, and only seek to trade those. Do everything in my power to find the markets that are going to make the biggest moves, that are the most powerful, that are the most demanded, that have the most money shuffling into them, given that they're liquid enough, and trade those. Because that's where my edge is. My edge isn't sitting there going, but how am I going to figure out? Can I find the special trade that's going to come out of these mini candles that are moving back and forth a little bit? Where is the special move? Where is the special location? That's not my job. I'm going to leave that up to the retail crowd, to the extremely dumb money crowd. I'm going to leave that up to the crowd that doesn't understand what they're doing when they trade in a market. And I'm going to simply look for the best and clearest possible moves. So on the daily, similarly, because it's not my entry time frame, I am again looking for overall stage 1 buildups that are now in line with what's happening. So again, this right here is your initial accumulation MB out of an area. Now again, I did not trade it this time, but that's okay, because now this is now information regarding what's going on here. This is either an MMB1 or an accumulation MB2, as taught in the material. And now we're getting kind of this pause, which isn't that clean. It's not that clear, but this is counting as an MMB1 or an MMB2. I'd probably say it's an MMB1. And I assume it's going to lead to a setup. So actually, it comes a little higher, and then it starts pausing very beautifully. This is what I want to see in a move, where price basically sells off, but the sell-off is very, very weak. And buyers are now stepping in clearly at the rising 10 and 20 EMA. So now my idea is I want to see this go. Now, the main question that I now ask myself is, where are we relatively, right? So the overall market, as you've seen me do this multiple times now, I go through the same steps. The weekly or the context time frame is in a clear bullish model delivering. This has recently went through a distribution into an accumulation into MMB1, MMB2, and is now in MMB3, currently surfing higher with the 10 average and 20 average, going sideways. While that's happening, what is the market that I'm looking at now doing? The market I'm looking at is going sideways, but it's for the most part showing a lot of strength. So this is basically a 50-50, but it's also showing strength, which means that this could be a good area to consider putting on risk. And the question is there a setup that's actually being had here? So when I'm on the 65-minute, even though all the things here are true, the main thing I'm focused on is this. I want to see flushes into stage 2s, flushes into accumulations get built, accumulations to act as entries, those entries to retain and hold, and price to hold above them because that's true demand, and for price to start an actual move that I can now manage my risk on. So when I'm looking at this, right, I'm looking at this beautiful, beautiful major flush. Price accumulates out of that for a stage 2, price flushes down and begins to build up potential accumulation. Now, it could take time to get your eyes very used to seeing this stuff, but it's in front of you, it's there. So this actually breaks down for another day. This also breaks down, so this loses its 20 EMA, and while that happens, SOUN actually also kind of loses its 20-day, gets bought up at the 20-day, and actually right now is coming up at that point, right? So I think this is MMB1 right up here, very clearly now. And I'm gonna go to the 65-minute now and take a look at whether we can build some double accumulation for me to take a potential entry here. Just like that. So I wanted to see price go sideways, and this is a phenomenal entry. Take a look at the 2-minute, just like I have done in every video that I've recorded and posted so far for you guys. So buy stop through the high, throw the stop at some area here, 0.11, 0.08. Looks really good to me. So far, so good. See if we get tapped in. Okay, and this taps me in for a trade, and again goes very, 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 very bullish. Look for a pause, a continuation, and move to break even. So here's your pause. See if we get a continuation out of this. So now I'm looking for price to close and move above this high here. Just a structural move where I can move this to break even quite clearly, just like that. So this is actually a fully break-even trade for me. So again, whether this trade now goes or fails, I don't care, right? I simply do not care because I have rules that will keep me in good markets and keep me out of bad markets. So this is simply a break-even, right? Price comes through these highs and move to break-even. This would now be break-even, and it's back to the drawing board. It's just back to waiting and looking for entries, right? That was based on the 65-minute MB entry, and simply it failed. There's nothing more for me to do there. And I simply wait for the next opportunity. Price now fails down and flushes back down through the averages. We'll take a look at the daily and see where we are. So the daily is getting bought up at or around that kind of rising 10 and 20. The setup isn't too clear. I actually don't like when markets do this. I like it when they start to move kind of instantly. So I'll wait a little bit here. And it starts that move without me. So take a look at this, right? In this case, what you had is you actually had this act as a double MB entry, and it was really, really clear after the fact, of course, right? This is where hindsight, yes, I can learn from this, but I did not take it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with missing this move and not being part of it and being afraid about it and being sad about it. Or sorry, there's something wrong with being sad about it and being afraid of the fact that you missed it and getting FOMO, but there's nothing wrong with the fact that I missed this, right? I saw this as my entry. I thought this got a little bit sloppy. I wasn't certain. I could have probably seen this if I looked back at it, but I didn't take it. And that's it. There's nothing more for me to do because it's something that from my studying is not basically in line with what I want to see. So if I go back to QQQ, you know, this is uber strength. What was it called? SOUN, right? So as I go back here, this is insane strength. It's as simple as that, right? This is now basically shown and proven that it's much stronger than the overall market. So we know that this is going to likely continue making really big moves, hence why it's one of the things that I've been watching. And price pauses again. I would assume that this is now building an MMB2, momentum MB2, as per the cycle. And it's now pausing on a rising 10 and 20 EMA, which is great. Usually kind of big candle. Actually, this looks pretty good. So we'll get a 65-minute. We'll compare that to the NASDAQ really quickly, which is also selling off, which is perfect. So everything cyclically is moving the way it should. Okay, we have one break even, that's on the right here. And we just wait for an accumulation. Take a look at the daily. Still looks really, really good. So again, this is a little bit hard because it's selling down into and below the 20. However, the move itself is very, very strong. And if we compare it to the NASDAQ, right, this move is losing its 10 and 20, while this move is literally proving to be bought up. So this is insane strength. So what this leads me to believe is, yes, this could be a distribution, right, in the future, and this could lead to an accumulation MB, momentum MBs. So this could be a reset of momentum MBs. But because of the way this is happening, and if the lower time frame can begin to accumulate, there should be a really nice entry that could be taken here. So like this is perfect for me. You have MB1. MB2 is now building. This is exactly what I like to see. We'll take a look at the 2-minute because again, I use the 2-minute as an E micro. That's what it's taught as in the private mentorship as a final step in determining if something looks clean for an entry. And I think this looks really good. And it also helps me with my risk management. So I'll look for this entry if we can get it. Comes down, it's perfectly fine. Played a little bit quicker. Looks like we're just losing the lows. So we'll take a look at the 65-minute again. Here we are. I still think this move looks really clear. I think it still looks really, really good. It now starts to lose the low, so I will ignore this trade now. I don't think it's worthwhile anymore, and I'll wait for a trade that's more clear. So again, now, even though this is a true setup, or now this is starting to be an MB, there can be a buildup of something in here that might be worth trading. I'll wait a little bit more. So this is perfect, actually. Okay, you have MB1. MB2 is now building, again, at that 10 and 20, exactly what I want to see, and you'll see there's like specifically these rules are embedded in the things that I've drawn for my team here and provided to my team. The flushes that happen usually come into and below the 10 and 20, and the MBs that start to form, however they form, the accumulation and demand that comes in happens at these levels of 10 and 20 EMAs. This is exactly how I get myself positioned, right? And all I do to really make it clear to you guys is I simply follow the stuff that's shown the most relevance in being demanded, right? So let's go back over here. And let's take a look at the 2-minute and see if it's worth trading this. I think this looks really, really good. If I wanted to trade this, I would want my stop to be somewhere here. 0.10, 0.12 looks really good for ATR stop. See if we get buy stopped into this move. I think I can even tighten this up now a little bit more for a buy stop. Comes down actually, so we can untighten it. I think it still looks good for a trade if this can start setting up. Okay, perfect. So on this day right here, we get tapped into this trade, right? So it opens up. So this is very important because again, how does this work, right? Price opens up here and then moves through it. So this is what it looks like on the day of, right? There it is. Price simply taps you in, right? Just before that high. And now you're in this trade. And the question is, when am I moving this to break even? Well, I usually tend to do so after I've seen some strength out of the move. Beautiful strength. That's all I need. and this trade gets moved into break even. And again, I have no risk on this trade again, right? I love to say to my team, make your rules in trading so unfair that someone that's watching this video right now as a beginner is like, but it's so unfair. Every time he's wrong, he's not losing any money. What the fuck is that all about? Because a lot of you get used to being wrong and losing a ton of money because you over risk, you over leverage. When you're wrong, you move your stop down. When you're right, you don't move your stop up. And all of a sudden, you, of course, lose more on your losses and make less on your wins, and you're wondering where it's going wrong. Make the game so unfair that when somebody watches you trade, like you guys are watching now, they go, but it's just unfair. He's moving to break even so quickly. Every trade is going to be a break even. It's unfair. And hopefully, it gives you a glimpse as to why, even over the last few videos on this channel, within this series that I've made for you guys, most are break evens. Beautiful. And that's why I actually make so much money, right? That's why we make money on our trades. So again, same thing goes. I wait for this move to start and I manage under the lows as this reaches 3 to 5R. So this is just simply a waiting game now and let this thing do whatever it needs to do. At this low, it's 2.4, so I'd still wait. At this low, it's 4.78. Okay, cool. So I can move my first partial right here for around 4.78R, just like that. Okay. Move to this low, move to this low, same exact thing, nothing different. Move to this low. Oh, wow. Okay, sure. Move to this low for a stop. Oh my God. Now, you see the big difference between this asset specifically and the other assets that we've done over the last few videos or over the clips videos together based on how I uploaded them. Maybe I'll do them all separate and then I'll make one big one for all of you, right? But you can see the major difference, and that's because the only difference is this thing has shown a lot more strength overall within the screener and everything, right? Where'd it go? Has shown a lot more strength overall within the screener. So it's one of the markets that I've ended up trading. What is this? Why is this not loading? And just been a lot stronger. And it's something that I've looked at and it's shown strength just from the comparison to the main market, right? This is insane strength. Look at this. When this thing fell off the face of the earth and was falling off the face of the earth, this thing was also kind of coming down. But before this, every move prior was showing disgusting strength. And now, as this is at all-time highs, this is also at all-time highs. So actually we have just pure strength and it's moving with the strength that it should. So everything makes sense right now. And again, the rules are the thing that create and make easy money for you. So again, little up candle, perfectly happy to move it up. And on this day, so the way this would work is because it opened here, the stop out would be at this level, right? Not at this level. So just want to make sure everyone understands that. So the first partial is at 17.33R, which is just already unfair, right? You guys should see why having good risk practices shouldn't ever make you have any more emotional issues. Because all you're doing every time you take a loss is you take a 0, a -1, a -1, a 0, a -1, a 0. And all of a sudden, you have a trade up 17RR, 20RR, 40RR. And it just seems stupid that you would ever sit around and be sad and fucking FOMO and have these emotional issues that you must listen to an hour-long podcast to fix. It's complete fucking nonsense. Go and do the work. Go and see it for yourself. Go and get access to the tools that make your own profitability more efficient to spot the things that can actually make moves, and everything's going to get easier. So the first partial is at 17.33R, which puts us at, calculator, 17.33 over 2, 8.6R as our first gain. So plus 8.6R is our first gain. And the rest gets managed to, well, we need to wait for a higher low now. So we'll take our stop loss, we'll draw it out. And there are two ways at the moment, the best ways that I've had to manage my trades, and it's either through higher lows or it's through a daily chart, so the validation timeframes moves. But because of this series, I've been very consistent with using the lows of the candles and then using higher lows of the 65 minutes. So that's what I'm going to do for you guys, okay? So we get a higher low, higher high, so we simply move our stop. Get a higher low, higher high, so we simply move our stop. We get a higher low, a higher high, so we simply move our stop. Get a higher low, and price gaps down. So this is where the stop would get stopped out here instead of up here. And that's part of the game sometimes. So you get stopped out of this trade at 15 at 15.2R, which means the second partial is a plus 7.6R gain. There we go, beautiful. And we're going back to the drawing board. So now the question is, where are we in the cycle? Is the cycle still valid? And if it's still valid, how can we trade this? So this is big selling. That's scary. But what does that say in reference to the overall market, right? Because this was an insane push up. So let's go and compare. So during that insane push up, this also made an insane push up. And during this pause, this sold off just to the rising 5, but this thing literally just fell off. So this is actually showing a little bit of weakness, right? This is weakness. That's important to note. Yet it's still creating, yet it's still creating a momentum MB. This is MMB3 in this overall move. But remember also what we said, it's very likely this was a stage 1, which I still think it is because of how this played. So what I do think is the case, I think this is accumulation MB. And I do think that, we'll go like this so we know the order by which everything happened in. There we go. So I do think this is actually acting as a momentum MB1 because of the action here, where stage 1, it broke down to re-break up and create this accumulation through this leg. So we'll wait and see if this weakness wants to get held or what it wants to do. So again, it's just kind of moving with the rising 10 and 20, and it is kind of going sideways, right? You can see it's kind of building a little sideways action here. So the selling is still being bought up. What's happening with the overall market? Okay, so the overall market actually gaps down and starts selling off heavily below the 20. And while that happens, this thing can't get below the 20, can't even go and take out lows. So this is now pure strength. And all of a sudden, because this is still in a bullish bias, even though it's breaking down, we expect that it's probably going to start getting bought up again because of the overall bias of this overall pair. We can expect that if this is this strong, we should try to get behind this move here because it should create a phenomenal opportunity to enter. And again, just so you guys know, this is exactly the stuff I do. I go back and study each market that I've traded, haven't traded, that shows up on my list, shows up on my screener, because I want to get myself prepared for any move that happens in the future. This is what I do for myself. So I'm making a video of it for you right now, but I do a version of this for myself almost every single week. So I'm looking for a buildup of accumulation, and that's perfection. We get this buildup of accumulation, a pause up here. As this is happening, let's look at QQQ. Yep, so the QQ is in huge weakness, starts getting bought up a little bit, also pauses. So this is perfect for potential accumulation. Head back to SOUN. We have pure strength on this thing based on the higher time frame too. I think this is a very valid trade. Take a look at the 2-minute just for purposes of placing stop. Looks like it just kind of comes down. This is all still part of that big move. Yep, so again, I'm looking for, I want to buy stop this high. I'm just waiting for something that looks a little bit cleaner, right? So this actually comes down, but it doesn't take out the low. This is still building an overall MB, so this still looks really, really clean. I don't see why I can't take an entry through this high. So again, if the 2-minute looks good, so again, it starts coming up here. Let's let it come up a little bit. Yep, this looks great. Happy to throw my stop kind of behind this low. Let's see, this is a 0.27 ATR. What is this? 0.34. So this is actually too big of a stop for what I normally want to do. So in this scenario here, I would cancel this trade and I would not take it yet. I would wait for this thing to create some kind of action on this E micro time frame. For me, it's a 2-minute. And I teach the rules behind that in the mentorship to actually take a trade. So it's coming up here. And the question is, if I did buy stop, where could a stop go? Maybe behind this, and you can see that's still 0.26 versus 0.25. So I actually don't see a way that I can buy stop right now that makes this good. So again, this is where my own rules prevent me from taking a trade, even though the trade might be good, and that's okay. That's part of the game. If this instead maybe comes down and then starts coming up, then great, I'll be able to place my stop here, and then I'll have a much better stop in terms of what I want to see for my actual gains. So I have to ignore this trade. Okay, so it does come down a little, and then it starts coming up. This is phenomenal. So this is where I can now set a buy, throw my stop behind this low, and all of a sudden, 0.20 is less than the 0.26. It's just under the 1 ATR, but it's not too tight. So this is a trade I'm more than happy to take. Okay. So it taps me in, and whoops. And same thing, right? This is now tapped in. That's how it looks on the actual entry time frame. Now I'm gonna use my 2-minute to actually manage this thing. So at the moment, my stop loss is simply placed here, which means, again, very simply, if price just comes down, I take a loss. Now again, does a loss bother me? Take a look at our results and take a look at the results combined of what we've done on the copy for YouTube over the last few months based on how I recorded this, weeks, whatever it might have been, right? Would you be okay with that? A lot of you would say yes, and that is how I simply get rid of all the emotional trauma that most people take years to remove by trying to learn all these little psychological hacks. So now what do I want to do? Well, I want to see bullishness, I want to see bearishness, I want to see bullishness, I want to see a reason to move myself to break even. Starts moving higher, pauses, starts moving higher. I want to see a true move away, so I wait a little bit. I'd wait for one more move. Maybe if another move comes through that high, I'll move to break even. So I wait, comes down. Happy to take the risk on this and take a loss if I have to. Otherwise, I'm just going to let this thing do what it needs to do. So it starts coming down. Looks like it's probably going to be a loss. Nothing wrong with that. Instead, it starts taking off, but look where it stops. Again, just around that high. So again, I want to see bearishness into bullishness that follows through a little bit, and then I can move my stop up. That's it. Nothing to do. Nothing to do. If it wants to give me a loss, I'll take the loss, right? It's very simple. The loss can come, the win can come. It doesn't matter at this point because I know exactly what makes me money in this market, right? And there's a loss. Beautiful. I actually didn't know. I had no idea what it was going to be, but there's a beautiful loss, a -1R. And simply, just like that, we remove all the prior analysis. We don't let that affect what we do next. And we take a look at this from a logical perspective and say, okay, what is this market telling us? So currently, it's still selling off and being bought up at the 20, right? If QQQ or the NASDAQ has already started moving higher, this is a problem. If the NASDAQ is still kind of moving lower and playing around like this is really strong. And I want to get back behind this move. So let's go to the QQQ. This is phenomenal. So the QQQ is still pausing for a potential accumulation. So this is still showing insane strength, right? Strength, strength, strength. So I'm still interested in the accumulations that are occurring on my entry time frame to get positioned. So the question now is, where are they and are they worth positioning? So what I see right now is we had this beautiful flush down and it started building those accumulations. Didn't really, maybe I might have taken an entry here if I wasn't in that one, and that could have also been a loss, but in this case, there's nothing to take. So all I can do is now wait for an opportunity to get behind this, right? So there's a flush and price just moves through this high. But then wicks, there's nothing to do here, right? It's a useless move. And then it takes off through that high. So clearly this has a lot of strength, but it doesn't look like we're going to be behind this move, right? It's as simple as that. This looks like, this was probably the move. It looks like we missed that move. It got activated. It's moving now. It might set up another move here, but I'm a little bit careful with trying to buy the ones that are higher up unless they're showing insane strength. So look at this. At the same time that this is still wicking and playing around here and unable to do stuff, this thing is in pure strength mode. So this is an example of where I would actually consider a long, again, through this high here as part of basically MB1, MB2, or MB1, MB2, MB3, however you want to do that, because we still have this high here, which is our actual liquidity high through the continuation of the actual underlying big structure, institutional structure, as taught in the mentorship, right? As part of the overall move that's happening off the daily as well for the validation, the MMB1, within an overall bullish bias within a very, very strong market. So based on what the 2-minute is doing here, I'd actually be willing to take another long through this high. And I think this looks really good. Taking a long through that high, throw the stop kind of under these points and look to see if that wants to tap me in. Comes down, perfectly fine, right? Because all it's doing right now, if you take a look at this, is it's building this MB, right? So it's now pausing. This is great. This means that the setup is becoming a little bit better. What we don't want to see is it to go and then break down and then make another setup. But if it does that, I'll consider another entry. What we do want to see is this strength to follow itself through. So what's QQQ doing? Not any strength, right? It's showing some bullishness, but as it's doing that, this thing is just relentless. That is really, really good. That is a sign that I want to be behind this market if it wants to tap me in. And is that good with the stop? Yep, it is. Good. So pauses down again. That's perfectly fine. Starts making a little bit of a move. Right, looks like it's just coming down. I'll take a look at what it was like on the 65-minute to be fair. Yep, so it never broke down deep. This is perfect. That's still part of this valid move right here. And then on this day, so this is now where we have to be very honest, price had opened up here, right? So the way you need to think about this is price opened up higher, which means that I would have canceled my order and not taken it. It would have opened here and sold off down. So I don't like to buy into selling, as you guys know. So I would have actually missed this trade, even though it looks like a trade that will work and will look really, really good. That's okay by me. So again, this is not a trade I'm now in. So sadly, I must just sit back and let this thing either come down and give me another setup now, or like later, or go without me and give me a setup later on in time. So it looks like it goes without me. That's perfectly fine. This is where I move back to the daily and I begin to track where this move is. So notice that, right? All that I got was a -1 out of this area. The analysis was correct, everything was correct, and yet I'm only taking a loss in this area and nothing more. That is part of the game. But what we now have is a continuation higher, and the question now becomes, how does that compare? Well, this thing is barely moving higher. It's back in accumulation, back in overall bullishness, back in bullishness within the weekly, but it's not even taking out the high, which means, as you all know, this is now insane strength. So again, notice how, despite being wrong, despite taking losses, we are now being able to tell a story about this actual asset and the demand behind this asset that is giving us the potential for great trades later on. That's what trading is all about. And all of a sudden, price sells off into the rising 5, 10, and 20, creating what I would supposed to be a momentum MB2 or still part of the momentum MB1. So this should start making something really clean on the 65-minute. What do we get? We get that major flush that leads to a stage 2. You have flush into accumulations, move. Flush into accumulations, or that's the idea, move, right? That's all we do on repeat. That's all you've seen over and over and over and over again. It's exactly what I teach my members to do, and I just give them more detail and tools to do exactly that. Okay, let's see if we get an accumulation out of this. So this is a really weird one, but it is valid the way I'm looking at it right now. We have an accumulation MB1 right here, and then it pauses to make this accumulation MB2. Based on what the 2-minute looks like here, which is the E micro, I'll be willing to take it. Yeah, this looks phenomenal. Very, very good. More than happy to take a long here, throw the stop under, 0.28, 0.27, looks good, 1 ATR rule. See if we can get tapped in. Comes down, this gets canceled, and we just break down. And just like that, right, I stay out of the move because it's not ready yet, right? That's all I had to do. This is the power of buy stop entries as well. So I wait. Starts moving higher, starts making an accumulation. We'll see if we get a pause. We don't, price just takes off without us, doesn't really give us anything that's, you know, kind of tradable. The only thing here is like this MB1, FFMB2, FFMB2 or 3. Those are the only opportunities, and those are very hard for me to trade. So again, completely correct about the overall move, nothing to take. But this is insane strength. Right? We are getting a story told to us about the way that this market is delivering. There's a very clear buyer or multiple buyers behind this. So all we can do is wait for an opportunity to get behind this. And again, this is also probably MMB2, I would say. Get a pause, which means that we're likely flushing for a potential setup. And take a look at this. Same thing here as we saw here. MB1, MB2. We can use that to get ourselves positioned. What does this trade look like? There we go. Looks really good. Buy stop the high. Throw the stop under. 0.32, this is 0.39. I probably would not take that. I would wait to see if we got a clearer move. So take a look at this, right? On this day, it opens up here. Again, it would have been canceled because it opened up here anyway, but nothing for me to take. And all I can do is wait. And the move goes without me again, right? Wrong, wrong, wrong. I just don't get the move, right? Taking a look at the daily, what do we have? Yep, goes, pauses, goes, pauses, goes. Again, insane strength, but nothing I can do. Now, you know, you can make an argument to trade here, but I don't like trading beyond the high, so this is where I just simply have to wait. And all I can do is let the move go without me. And notice how I don't have to be in these moves to make money necessarily, right? Well, you have to be in the moves to make money, but me not being in the moves doesn't create any bit of worry or anxiety because I know the rules that I follow will evidently and eventually and always get me into good moves in the future at some point. That's a very, very vital point of trading, okay? MMB2, so it's just back to waiting. I assume this is MMB3, and it is pausing very beautifully. And again, I'm gonna compare this to QQQ, which is also moving up, but look how it's selling off, and look how this is selling off. This is insane strength. Look at the story being told by just a strength kind of measure of what's going on here, right? This is insane. So again, I'm looking for opportunities. This is a beautiful flush to get myself behind this move. A flush into an accumulation. Yeah, I don't see anything I can do here. Okay, fantastic. We have an MB2 and an MB1. You have MB1, MB2, right? So however you want to measure this, it's there. This is beautiful. Let's look at the 2 minute. This is so phenomenal. This looks beautiful. Buy stop the high, throw the stop under the low, 0.76. This is 0.68. Looks really good for a setup. So pauses even further. I have to cancel this for now. Take a look at the 65 minute. Still looks very good for a setup. No reason not to take it. So the question now is, will it give me an opportunity to put a stop in a place that I want to put my stop? So if I took an entry here, I'd have to put my stop somewhere here. That's 0.79 versus 0.72, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to cancel this and wait. So again, what am I waiting for? I'm waiting for a pause, hopefully, and then a move, because then I can throw my stop here, right? Because I want to throw my stop behind the sellers that get stopped out and the new buyers that come in, because that's where they're going to be protecting their overall orders. Yeah, this is phenomenal. This is so perfect. So we take a buy stop through this, throw the stop under the low, 0.72, 0.60. Very happy with this setup. See if we get tapped in. Comes even lower. We'd have to throw this higher down, 0.69, 0.77. Not happy to take it, so we have to wait. Same thing, we wait. Oh, let me see if this would be an entry, because again, we want to be fair. Stop would be somewhere here. 0.66 versus 0.69, very good, happy with the trade, and we're here at full risk, right? There's not a reason to break even yet, so there we are. Sell is at break even, and again, we just want to wait for our rules to move to break even. We get a very clear follow through, but I think price could easily come here and then go. However, actually, you know, this is great follow through this high, so I don't see a reason price should be coming back, to be honest. It can come back, but this is a good trade, I think. Okay, and it starts a beautiful move. So now we can manage our trade on our 65 minute. Wow. And we get a phenomenal trade out of it. So now the goal is to do what we normally do. We wait for about 3 to 5 hour up. This is 3.6, so I'd probably wait for a little bit more strength if we can get some. Yeah, nothing yet. Okay, that's gonna probably do it. 5 RR, yep. So now we get to move our first partial right below this low. And again, the same thing happens. We just wanna use the strength that currently exists to get ourselves out of this. Mini pause, I'd probably give it another candle. Okay, so it looks like I should have moved my stop up, but that's okay, that'll happen. Stop is at 5.38, so the first stop is at 5.3, what is it? 2.69 R gain is the first partial. 2.69 R. And the second one will simply be with higher highs and higher lows. Higher low, higher high. Whoops. Higher low. And stops us out. So I don't get a higher low, higher high on this thing. 5.09, which puts us at 2.5 R. I'm just gonna round down for you guys. Plus 2.5 R. Happy with that. And again, just because we get stopped doesn't mean that we lose out on making money, right? Remember that, because what's happening now? We had MMB3, and now we have, what is MMB4? Now it's pausing again, and how is it doing it comparatively? Holy shit. While this thing is selling off below all the lows, this thing is what? Actually moving higher. This is a phenomenal potential entry, and I'd really want to get behind this, of course, right? I don't know what that is, but whatever. So we have MB1, and we wait, and we get what looks to be like an MB2 right there. Let's look at the 2 minute. Yeah, I love this. I'll set up a buy stop through the high. Throw the stop under the low, 1.46. So in this case, I'd want to make my stop a little bit bigger, probably with this low. That looks good. See if we can get tapped in. So it taps us in. Now we wait for a reason to break even. I'd probably wait for one more move through the high. Yep, looks really good. And our partial, I mean, we can move our stop loss to break even just like that. And we'll see what it does here for a little bit. Looks like it is maybe gonna make a move. So we'll go back to the 65 minute. Yep, looks like we have a move starting on this thing, which is great. Okay, and it just it just comes down and stops us out. Okay, at break even, sure. So take a 0 on this. Okay, all good. Let's compare that and see what's going on. But this is another flush, which might lead to another setup. Let's go to QQQ, see what's going on there. So also sells off, comes up, sells off. So again, everything is in line with what should be happening, but this is showing insane strength. Sells off. Okay, very interesting. It actually does build kind of an MB here. And I think it does build a little... No, it doesn't, not yet. I don't really see it. Okay. So builds an MB here. Now let's see if it goes sideways for a bit. It does. So this is actually also a valid trade. This is like a double MB right here. This looks really good. Let's take a look at the 2 minute, see what's going on there. Yep, looks phenomenal for what I like to see. Take the buy stop through there, throw the stop here. And what is that? 1.24 versus 1.24 versus 1.02. Very good for a setup. See if it taps us in. Yep, still looks good for that area. So this would have tapped us in on that day right there. And now we're simply waiting for a break even. So no break even, just kind of takes off and falls right off. That's a -1. Back to the 65 minute. Oh, so it actually takes us out and then comes back up. So this is a question of whether you would re-enter this or not. So again, this is going to be preferential, right? So the question becomes, do you take this entry off of the overall setup like this? This is preferential. I think I would not take this, even though it looks like it's going to work. I probably would have skipped that, and it looks like it's off without us, which is okay. That's part of the game. And there you are. You know, that kind of takes off without you, and oh, that's most recent action. Okay, great. So we've gone through most of the action, right? We actually know this is MMB4, so what's funny is the next step on this is either a huge blow up for no reason and then a big failure, or right now it's probably gonna start chopping like this, right? And then kind of break down for a bit and then do this for a long time. So on the daily, you're likely gonna see this thing kind of start a little bit of a sideways action, which might build up a nice move for the future, which I might be part of. And that now concludes this test on something that is more in line with the stuff that I'd usually like to watch. And once again, all we're gonna do is we're gonna put these in. So we have a 0, then we have an 8.6 plus 7.6. That was that first profitable trade. Then we have a -1. Then we have a 2.69 plus 2.9, 2.69 plus 2.5, sorry, 2.5. Then we have a 0, another break even, and then we have a -1. So again, as I look back at this data, as I look back at what happened here, let's reset this, and let's reset this. As I look back at this, and by the way, this sheet is available to the entire team within the mentfx mentorship, but you can also make your own. It's very easy. Just, you know, literally look at what's here. You can go and make your own and create tables and stuff. You know, you don't have to, you can do whatever you want there. But look at this data, right? If you really work yourself through this, it's going to seem like you're taking a lot of losses and break evens, which you are. That's what trading is about. -1, -1, 0, 0, -1, 0, 0, -1, winner, 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 0, -1, 0, 0, winner, -1, winner, 0, -1. Every single trade is pretty much a break even or a loss. And yet, dun, 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 this is where we end up at a 1% risk on a compounded balance, around 61.53% gain on a 25% win rate, a 40% break-even rate, and a 35% loss rate. Almost all the trades we take are break-evens or losses, and yet the system itself is extremely profitable. And what you can really do is you can take this to the next level if you really wanted to. And I'm actually going to do that with you guys right now for those of you that have made it this far into this video to give you a little bit of value now, hopefully. So whether you're part of the team or not, this should be able to help you. And that is to recognize what you can do with your own trading to make your management even better. So what I mean by that is if you think about a lot of these winners, like the 17.751, that winner ended up, the final partial was at 11.25, which means if we took no partials at all, the actual gain would be 22.5R because that's where we took the partial. So what we can do is, let's say we didn't take any partials during this entire thing, and all we did is we trailed a stop, and that's all we did. This would be 22.5R. This winner here would be 8.06, so it's actually going to be basically equal, 8.06. This winner here would be 16.7. 16.7. This one right here would be actually less than this, but it would be 15.2. 15.2. This one right here would be only 5, right? And just with a little bit of management difference where we are now trailing only and not taking partials, right? I think, yeah, our overall equity curve actually makes more money. Now this is preferential, and you can base this based on, you know, what you actually are okay with experiencing and what you're okay with taking. But for me personally, at the moment, I take partials. So, you know, as a result, I try to do this test as fairly as possible in reference to my most recent system that I personally use right now. And I did so across markets that have quite literally shown up directly on this thing right here. And, you know, these are literally markets that show up on this thing. If it's not here right now, that's gonna suck, but yeah. This thing disappeared off here for a little bit because I think it's breaking down a bit, but that's okay. You know, don't just ignore that for now because you can have that happen. But nonetheless, put them all together and you have an equity curve that begins to look a little bit something like this. Put multiple versions of that together on repeat, right? On repeat, on repeat, on repeat. Do it a few times, do it over and over and over again. And all of a sudden, right, you have a natural system that delivers naturally through normal periods of drawdowns and gains. Now, again, this is a little bit out of control because of compounding. And of course, this is not going to be how it's going to be on a live account. But this is what happens. And, you know, like just looking at this, hold on, let me bring up my own equity curve since February of this year. For my own February equity curve of this year, like you're looking at a similar thing, right? You can see there's similarity in this equity curve versus the one that I've done over the last few videos of just testing for you guys. Here it is, right? This is the one where we're just doing a little bit of testing. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, with a lot of that data deleted, but it looks very, very similar. And that's because what I'm doing is I'm extracting EV out of trends and I'm learning to follow trends. I'm not sitting idly by trying to predict every move in the market every single day to find some next new high, the next new low, and trading through mean reversion and shit action. Instead, I'm making a very, very logical choice to trade the stuff that's showing strength that's very clear, that's moving very clearly in reference to the cycles of what price does. And then I'm executing upon it. And on top of that, I already have a filter that literally gives me a blueprint for what I should follow. Which is why if you've taken any value from this, you should become part of the team. I want to meet you. I want to talk with you. I want to watch you grow. And I want to add stuff to this that you want. Okay. Thank you. Bye.